Hi everyone, today we're going to take a variety of different cardstocks, add a Cricut gel pen to create this fantastic card for my dad's birthday. So, let's make this! So these are the materials we'll need. We're going to use a light grip and a standard grip mat. We need both of those, one for the cardstock and one for the vinyl. I've got some glitter cardstock here that I got from Kmart for a couple of dollars. And then I've got the Frenchville pitch black cardstock that I got from Officeworks. I've got a little bit of scrap blue vinyl. It's HTV Ront vinyl. And I've got foam stickers that I got from Shiploads here in Tasmania. I've got my scoring stylus that I got, I think, from Amazon, and I will put the link in the description below, and also a gel pen from Cricut. I don't use pens very often, so I haven't got to the hacks with different pens yet. And also I've got some craft glue. It's got a really fine tip on it. I got this also from Shiploads. I'm not sure where else you can get the ones with the fine tip. I haven't really investigated because one of those bottles will last you forever. Today we're not going to use Canva for our designing. We're actually going to do everything in Design Space. However, I am going to show you how to find fonts that maybe don't appear on your system currently and are either paid for, or similar ones are paid for in Design Space, or they don't appear at all in Design Space. So there's a number of different websites that will allow you to do this. My favorite is 1001fonts.com. So I'm going to show you how to do that. Most of them do run in a similar fashion, and I will provide you with links to a couple of them in the description below. But let's check out 1001fonts.com. So once we head into 1001 Fonts, you'll see that you come up with the first page that says new and fresh fonts. And this is where your starting point will be. So in that, right up the top there, you can do a search for fonts, and I'll show you how to do that a little bit later. But we're going to start with where it says your text here. So this is really good function because you can actually type in what you want to put on your card, on your poster, on whatever it is that your jumper. And so you type that in and you can see what each of these fonts look like in that style. Now, on this A-B tick, it says only show fonts with characters happy birthday. Now, this is not usually necessary if it's just going to be straight out words. But if you're going to do apostrophes or commas or exclamation marks, some of the font styles won't do that for you. So if you put that into your happy birthday font there, then you'll click that A, B and the tick, and it will make sure that only the fonts that have the exclamation mark will show. Now, in terms of the commercial free, this is when you want to use it for a future sales into like your markets, Etsy's, any online sales, then you'll use that commercial free. If it doesn't have that commercial free logo, then you're actually not going to be able to use it without paying for the license. And you can do that through 1001 Fonts as well. But for this project, it doesn't really matter because we're not planning on selling it, but just for future reference. The little a to the big A is a font size. So you can actually change the size of the font if that will help you to see what you're doing. And then further along, you can actually change the colors of both the background and the foreground. Now, for the card I'm making, I've got a blue text and I've got a black background. So I can actually change the colors of the fonts and the background to the fonts just so I can see if it works. I mean, for something like this card, it's not going to really make a big difference because we've actually made those decisions already in terms of having the background glitter card. But I think this would probably be really useful if you were doing it for say a poster or some sublimation or something like that where the coloring is really important, or even some branding. But I don't know that it's really necessary for cards, I think the most important thing is to be able to write the words that you are going to use and be able to have a look at those. But up to you. And then we move along and we can actually change how many fonts per page we see, and we want the most. It's annoying. It's not for any other reason, but doing 10 at a time is really annoying. You can also change the how you sort the fonts. I don't tend to use that at all. And then right at the end of that is a reset. So if you get all this and you go, oh, I just want to go back to the black and the white and I just want to see what the fonts are, then you can just click that and it'll reset it to the different, the original styles. Now across the top here, where all these words that say fun, display, calligraphy, hand lettering, handwriting, they help you to refine your search. So if you know, just like in Canva, if you know you're looking for a handwriting font, you can click on that and then it will only show fonts that fit into the category of handwriting. And then from there, it intuitively creates more choices or more categories that you can refine your choices down even further. So right now is probably a great time for you to pause and just scroll through and see if you can find a font you like. And then I'll show you what to do next. The other option is if you already know what font you're looking for, you can just do a search up the top where it says search for fonts. I'm going to use Via Font for this particular project. I did my scroll and I've decided that this is probably going to be a really good one. It's a good one to cut. If I was doing, say, a t-shirt or something that had the vinyls, I wouldn't necessarily choose this one. I might choose something that was had a little bit more going for it. But because we're using cardstock, you want to choose a font that's actually got some straight lines and very limited thin lines. Because when we start cutting on our Cricut with our thin lines and we're doing it on cardstock, sometimes that won't come out very well. So my advice to you is to use a stockier font, whether it is a handwriting style font, which is fine because I will use that when I create the card as well. But make sure that it is more of a stockier font than something that's fine and has a lot of curls and whirls and pretty love hearts and things like that. Look, half the time it will work fine, but then the other half is quite frustrating because you might do this over and over again and it still isn't going to come out right and you waste so much cardstock. Again, this is just us playing around. So if you want to have a go at some of those curly whirly fonts, go for it. Please do. And let me know in the comments below how you went. Show us your photos. Let us know what your curly whirly fonts with your cardstock look like because I'd love to see them. All right, so I've chosen Via Font. Now on the right-hand side, I've actually found one by fluke that is commercial free. So see how it's got that green price tag? It means that if I wanted to, I could actually use this font in any of my sales on my Etsy store and I wouldn't have any issues in a legal capacity. If it was red instead of the green $, then I could only use it for personal use. All right, now we're going to go to download. So when I click download, I'm using an Apple computer. But when I click download, it goes directly to my downloads folder. Same thing will probably happen with your Windows. It may open up and say, where would you like to save it? And you can choose your folder. But with mine, it's gone straight to my downloads folder and it downloads into a zip file called whatever your font is. So mine's viafont.zip. And I open it up into my downloads. Now, if I double click on my zip file, it does the extraction. If you're using a Windows program, you're going to have to right click and do a extraction. So you have to do that manually. Whereas with an Apple, you just double click and it will extract. Now, you'll see in this one, and you won't see this in all your files, but for this one in particular, it's got a .otf file and a .ttf file. Now, I just did a quick Google and I found out that If you've got a choice between the two, the best one to choose is the .otf file, because it will give you more options in terms of the characters that you may get with your font package. So things like glyphs, where people are having special curly lines that end in a love heart or a star or things like that, that comes from the .otf file. So if you've got the choice, the recommendation is the .otf. If you don't have a choice and it just says .ttf, that's fine too. It will work in the same fashion. It just will give you more options if you use that .otf file. So when you double click on it for a Mac, you just click on install. I will put some instructions in the description below on how to do that on a Windows computer, but it's a very similar process. You are installing a new font. And then when I have a look in my font book, I'm on a Mac. In my font book, you can see that the font has been downloaded. And when you scroll through, you can see those characters that have got the different accents and the double dots, and there's a degree sign and yen sign, pound, that kind of stuff. Those things are appearing in our font style. Okay, so now we've got a new project in Design Space. So we're going to do all of this in Design Space today. No canvaing for us. Just so I just want to show everyone you can do it all in Design Space as well. So I'm going to add some text. So as I did in my 1001 fonts, I want to say happy birthday. We can align it to the left and then we come up with our fonts. So if I go into System, what I should now find is the font I downloaded. The font I downloaded is called Viafont. So I'm going to type that in. Now you'll see no results for Viafont. This is because I had Design Space open before I started. If I had it closed and I opened it after I had downloaded the font, I wouldn't have this issue. But because I already had Design Space open, what I need to do is save what I've done. It just says happy birthday. And then what I'm going to do is reload the program. So I'm going to go up to View, and then I click on Reload. What it does is it reloads Design Space. And now when I go back into change my font, what I should be able to do now is type in Viafont, and Viafont should now appear. There it is. So if any of those kind of things happen, sometimes just doing a quick reload of Design Space is really helpful. Even though this is a great font, you can see that it does, particularly on the A and the Y, there's a huge gap. So what I can do is actually ungroup the letters. Now what that does is it turns each of those letters into singular items, and I can just click on each one and move them across. Now I'm doing that with my keyboard key, the left key, because if I use my mouse, I may move it up and down. Not a problem there because we can then realign it. But I just find if I just use the left arrow key on the keyboard, it's just a little bit easier. Now, each of those are separate little entities. So I want to go back in and I want to unite them. So I've just highlighted happy birthday and I've united them to become one little unit. Now the next step is now I'm going to put Eddie in. That's my dad's name. So my dad's birthday is in a couple of weeks' time. And I thought this would be a perfect occasion to create a little card. So now what I'm going to do, so I've got my block lettering. Now I want a bit of a script lettering. So some of these system fonts are ones that I have followed that 1001 fonts process and I have downloaded them, just like I've just shown you. And then the other ones are the ones that come with your computer. So system is the fonts that are on your computer. So if you open Word, if you open a PowerPoint or something like that, those are the fonts that you'll find. On the left, the one that says Cricut, they are the ones that are uploaded by Cricut. And you've got to just be a little bit careful because some of them are paid for and some of them are free. But I've chosen Sign Painter, which is a system font that I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, in the comments, but I think it is actually one that comes with a Mac. I don't know if it comes in Windows, but I think it comes in Mac. I don't think this is one I downloaded. Now I'm going to create the card. So I want a card that is about 13 centimeters square. You can make this any size you like. It is up to you, because the beauty of creating your own cards means that you can make the size that you want. You don't have to conform to what Cricut have created as a card shape. I've made mine 13 by 13 because I'm doing two sides of it. I have then made the width 26 and the height 13. So that is 13 plus 13 for the width. And then I've got a 13 height. So when I fold this, it's going to be a 13 by 13 square. The next thing I'm going to do is do a score line. Now, the score line is useful if you've got a scoring tool. Now, I have the scoring pen, mainly because it was about a third, if not a quarter, of the price of the scoring tool that looks like the cutter. But before I got the scoring tool, what I would do is use a ruler and the tip of a screwdriver or a skewer even to draw my line. So if you don't have the scoring tool, don't worry about it. There are ways you can do this. Use your initiative, use your intuitive nature, but I'm going to show you how to do it with the scoring tool, and in particular the scoring pen. So I've gone over to shapes, and the line that's in the shapes menu, it is actually a scoring tool. So you can see that I've clicked on it. It's given me a line of 6.35 high, and the operation now has changed to score. It's no longer basic cut, which is usually what comes up. It is going to be a score. So I can now make that 13 centimeters because that's the height of my card. And I'm going to change the color of the card for the moment to a light gray, only just so that we can see what this score line looks like. I've highlighted both the score line and the rectangle, and I have aligned them in the center. So it's not center horizontal and center vertical. I've gone with the full center. I'm going to group my rectangle and my score line. Reason being is when I move it around, I want to be able to move it as one. And then I'm going to shuffle over and arrange my happy birthday and my Eddie. Now, here I've accidentally added them together. This is what I don't like, and I'm not sure. When I move one thing and I move it in my layers panel, it tends to just group with something else, and I hate it. I want to be able to shuffle things around in my layers panel without it having to be a big deal. So because whenever I moved Eddie, it kept trying to be part of either happy birthday or part of the square, the rectangle and the score. I've now right-clicked and moved it to the front. All right, now I'm looking for golf. I want a free golf thing. You can see there were thousands of different options for paid versions, but I'm doing everything without having to pay for any subscriptions. So I've clicked on free, and I'm going to choose this little golfer. Dad took up golfing after he retired and moved down to Tasmania, and it's now become like a mild obsession where he actually watches it on TV. So I'm, leaning in, and I'm going to give him a card. It's a golfing card. So I've moved my little stick figure. If I had the paid one, I probably would have chosen something that was a little less stick figure-y, but this is what we got to work with. And then I'm going to put an offset on there, and I've done a 0.3 offset. You can make it bigger, you can make it smaller. I just like that 0.3. It gives it a little bit more clout, I guess, especially because it's not a very tall shape. And now I'm just playing around and moving things into where I would like them to be. Because what we're going to do is we're going to cut out the happy birthday Eddie from our card, and then we're going to turn our golfer into I think they call it a 3D, but it's just lifted off the card. So it's going to be a separate entity. So I've grouped my golfing man and his offset. And I just want to move my birthday back up a bit closer to my happy. So I've undone the unite. So I've gone down to combine and undo unite, and then just held my shift key down and clicked on each of the letters of birthday, and then reunited them and moved them closer to the happy birthday. It just looked a little bit too gappy for me. And it also means that I probably could be able to make my golfer a little bit taller and have him make up a little bit more space. The other thing, when you're cutting, you don't want the cut too close to the edge. So make sure that you move that around so that it's not too close to that edge. I've moved the golfer out of the way, and I'm going to highlight the happy birthday and the Eddie and do a subtract. So I went down to combine and subtract. But you can see there that I've lost my score line. So I'm just going back into the subtract to make sure it is still there. And I'm going to ungroup it and move my line out of the subtract. I'm going to try and move it out of the subtract group. There it is. But you can see now it's no longer it's a basic cut. It's no longer a score. So we go up to our operation and we re-choose score. And if we click off, you should see it's a dotted line. So all sweet there. Now, behind our happy birthday Eddie, so we're going to have a black cover, and then underneath I'm going to have a blue glittery card that goes underneath to then make the happy birthday Eddie look like it's a blue colour. So all I need to do is a basic cut of a square that can then sit behind that happy birthday Eddie. It's just now a matter of making sure that it's big enough to fit under that wording without it being too much of any gaps. So you can see there that probably on the left-hand side where it's of the square, it's probably just that little bit too tight because it may not stick down properly and then it starts flapping up and it doesn't look as good. So I'm going to change it. I started with 11.5. I'm going to change it to a 12 and see how now I've got a little bit more of a gap between the wording on the left alignment and that box. So that's just going to be a basic cut. So now I'm going to hit make. Now you can see that I've got the score on a separate mat to my card, which is not what I want to do. So I need to attach. You don't combine, you attach. So I've highlighted the whole card and the line and I've attached it. The other thing I realised I forgot is to actually write something in the middle. So that's our third component. So we've got I've just found a silly little party, little golf pun. I do love a pun. So we're going to party like a champion. Oh, can't spell. There you go. Now, in Cricut, we have some font that allows us to use our pen to write with. So when you go into your font, you're going to click on the filter, which is the two lines with circles on it, just next to where it says any language. You're going to click on that, and that then provides you a whole heap of filters that you can use. Now, I've chosen writing and I've chosen free because I am going to use a gel pen, see how the gel pen works. And then I'm going to scroll through and I'm looking for a fun little font that looks like it's handwritten, but it's not. So I've chosen the favorite fonts collection there, and I need to make it fit inside our blue square. Sorry, I don't need to make it fit inside the blue square. I just need to make it fit inside the card. So it cannot exceed 13 by 13. And I'm just going to change the font size because I'd like it to Happy Birthday Eddie to fit across one line. The reason I'm using the blue square as a guide because we know that it fits inside our card and it fits inside our card with a little bit of a border. So I don't want it to be the whole size of the 13 by 13. And now I can go back into make, and you can see there that I've got a pen. I've got my golfer, my silver part of the golfer, and I've got my card. Now I'm going to mirror that. The reason being is because I want the score line to be on the inside of the card, not the outside of the card, because we want to be able to fold it inwards. We're not trying to fold it outwards. So I've mirrored it there. And we're also, because we're doing a cut, it's not going to make a huge difference to what we're doing because it's going to cut it out anyway. So I've mirrored that one only. All the other ones are going to stay as is. I'm in the pen and I've got the Happy Birthday Eddie Party Like a Champion. Now when I go to edit, I want to move this over. Now the reason I want to move this over is because it needs to fit inside our 13 by 13 square. But we're going to open up our card and place our card with the written component on the right hand side. So for that pen to write on the correct side of the card, I actually need to move the pen image. So for that to work properly, I actually need to move the pen image to the right hand side between the 13 and the 26. And I'm going to just move it down a little bit too so that it fits right in that sweet spot, so it fits in the center of the card. And now we're going to make our different products. You're going to choose glitter cardstock for the background of our little golf man, as well as our blue square. For the black card, I've chosen a medium cardstock. Now you can see there that when it comes, so I've set my base material, which is great. Now I've got to load my tools. Now it has there as a default, load single scoring wheel in clamp B. Now I don't have the scoring wheel. I know it says recommended. That's fine, but I don't have that. I've got the stylus. So to change that, I've clicked on edit tools and I've changed it to a scoring stylus. And then our cut stays as a fine point blade. What you can actually see now is that it's changed to clamp A. The cutting tool is in clamp B. All right, so let's have a look at how we're going to put that together. So I'm just going to add my scoring stylus to the machine. So I just make sure that I've got that arrow pointing downwards and I push that in until you hear a little click. Then you close the clamp so that the A is facing downwards. So now that our machine has cut out our cardstock here with our happy birthday, I just want to talk about how to get that off your mat. So first of all, you want to flip your mat over and then pull the mat up and let the cardstock stay down. This prevents the curling of your cardstock and keeps it nice and flat. Then I'm going to use this tool. Now, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a palette knife. I'm not sure. But again, I am curling my mat and then I am lifting the cardstock up. We're trying to save all of those little inserts that we need for the D's and the E's, as well as the P's, B's, R's, and D's for happy birthday. So I'm just lifting them carefully. It doesn't matter if the Eddie bit rips because we're not reusing that. But we want to make sure that our inserts into our letters stay nice and flat as well. So I'm just laying down the cardstock before we start writing on it. And you can see there that I've got my score line on that 13 centimeter mark. And I've got and it's going straight along that line to the 26. That is where my pen is going to write. So you need to make sure that you get that in the exact right spot, because if you don't, you're actually going to have your pen writing in a spot that you're not happy with. The annoying thing about putting it having to move it around on the mat is that there's no way of being accurate about that. But what we can be accurate with is where we put our cardstock and make sure that that is in the right spot. So now I'm going to remove the score pen out of the A slot and I'm going to put my gel pen in. So this is a gel pen number 1 silver. I'm hoping that this will write on the black cardstock. It should. I had a test of it before I decided on it. So, and you're just going to push it in with the arrow facing downwards, obviously, and you push it in until you hear a click, and it won't go any further. And then you clamp it up and make sure the A is facing outwards. Oh, look at this. How terrible. So the pen has worked in most spots, but you can see there that it's kind of not worked in, it hasn't, it's not kind of, it just hasn't worked in some spots. It's as if the pen wasn't sitting, didn't sit right. I don't know, where the ink wasn't coming through the pen properly. I don't know what to do here, but we'll see. So I'm just going over this with the pen and just following the lines that it created. So I think my best bet is to remake this card, use the pen again, just to see if that works a little bit better. Because now you can see I have, because I don't know why I started at that side, but I'm writing backwards, and then I've smudged this as well. So I am going to remake this card just to see if I can get that pen to work. And if it doesn't, I think what I'll do is I'll do it as if we were doing a double cut. I'm going to just run it through twice. Look at that. Ruined. How annoying. So I've just done a second card to see if the pen would work a little bit better. And I found that it's perfect this time. So check this out. I think that probably my best tip for you is to use the pen before you're going to do it on your final product. So maybe do a test run or just draw something random, just so that maybe that ink hadn't got to the pen tip properly yet, because I'd never used that pen before. So maybe that would be a little tip. I've not done a lot of writing with the pen before on Cricut, so if anyone's got any tips, let us know. But I feel like that might be my best tip for you. Okay, now that we've got all of our bits and pieces cut out, you can see here that the second Happy Birthday Eddie has worked out really well. I think it's just a matter of making sure that you use that pen, give it a little bit of a run through before you're ready to use start your final design. Okay, so we're going to start with our glue. Now I'm going to put the glue down on the inside of the card, and I'm just going to go around the edge of these letters so that there's spaces here that need extra sticking down. So I'm just going to go around. I don't want to do too much glue, make it too thick, but I'm just going to go around the edges before I then look at putting some glue on the cardstock. All right, and now I'm just going to do around the edge of the cardstock. I'm not going to cover the inside of the cardstock because I've already done that with our Happy Birthday Eddie. So I'm just going to go along those edges. Gosh, this glue is a pain in the neck. It comes out really fine and neatly, but it's really hard on your hands to push it out. So I like the fine tips, but I'm not sure if it's just that glue type or if it's all of them. I'm not really sure. All right, so now I'm placing that square down. Now I've got to make it look, if it wasn't straight, it wouldn't be a huge deal, but for me, I like to keep it straight because when you're opening up the card, you don't want it to be looking like it's amateur. I'm just going to push it down with a brayer tool. Make sure you do give that a little bit of a clean before you use it. Otherwise, some of those bits and pieces from your other brayer projects, it will transfer onto that cardstock. And because that cardstock is white on the back, you can see a little bit of an issue. All right, so I'm just going to brayer along so that we've got it sticking down. And then make sure I give that brayer a little bit of a wipe down again. I'm really loving that font. All right, so now that I've flipped it over, some of that glue has seeped out. And unfortunately, a black card shows those little, because the glue is like a craft glue, and so when it sets quite shiny. So it is a little bit annoying. I'm just trying to use a little bit of a wet wipe to get it off, but I'm not sure if that's actually doing anything. The wet wipe's drying, but it's not actually making a difference to the glue that I put down on it. Yeah, that's annoying for me. The other thing I could have used is the glue tape, and that's I like it. It's a bit expensive because it's the rolls aren't very long, but it's a clear sticky glue from Yoo-Hoo, and I think there's another one from Boss Stick as well that I really like. But again, it's cost over the finish. But I think in the future I'd probably use that glue tape for something like this on the black cardboard that picks everything up. So now I'm just going to get our vinyl and put it over the top of the glitter cardstock. I really like this because sometimes the glue doesn't stick as well on glitter cardstock. Okay, it lifts a little bit. Whereas with this, we can use our vinyl and put it straight down. And the transfer tape does not lift up the glitter because it's not a flat surface. So if I did this straight onto the card, you'd actually find that the transfer tape might lift. I have seen a lot about the paper transfer tape or the transfer paper. I do want to try that one day. I just haven't got around to purchasing that yet. So while I still have this amount of transfer tape that I've got, I'm going to just keep using it. And but yeah, like I said, great for glitter cardstock because the glitter cardstock doesn't actually stick to this. So I can lift that transfer tape. That said, I'm not just going to run my scraper right over it. I'm going to focus mainly on those where the vinyl is. But see how easy it's lifting? That's fantastic. Oh, what a cute little dude. It's so cute. Okay, so like I said, some of that card is not sticking down to the glitter amazingly well. So you really do have to press that down to hold it down. And maybe those thin lines that I've got there for between the H and the D and the D and the A probably could have put a little bit of glue down there as well. So now I'm going to put in the little stop gaps. So you can see here, if you're trying to work out which side is the side that is supposed to be facing up, when the Cricut cuts through your cardstock, you'll find that on the underside of it is like a little lip that has been left from that cut. So that is the bit that should go downwards. So now I'm just going to go through and I'm going to stick all of my little bits. So there'll be the P's, the B's, the R, and the D for happy birthday, and then just the D and the E for Eddie. I'm just going to go through and stick all of those on. Well, this is a kerfuffle. I've lost one of the little bits from the P's or the B's or the R. So I've only got 4 little dots there you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, but I need 5. So I'm just going to leave it. I actually do like it without the little stop gaps anyway. So I'll just leave it. Anyone who's been doing cricketing for a little while, it's a curse when you lose the dots with your vinyl or with your cardstock. All right, so I'm going to just use a ruler and I'm just going to place it against that fold line that we've created. Now, if you didn't use your scoring tool, you would still use your ruler. Like I said, you can use the edge of a screwdriver. A pen that doesn't work is a really good one. You could even use your tool that you use to lift the vinyl up. This real spiky thing, you could use that as well. And look what I just found. So I don't know where it went, why it just appeared out of nowhere. But okay, so now I've got all of my little dots for my the B's, the P's. So I'll now start adding those. I'll go through and add those. Not really loving it. They look a little bit like googly eyes. So hopefully when this white glue dries, because it does dry clear, it is craft glue. When it dries clear, hopefully it looks a little bit better. But at the moment, I don't love it. It kind of looks googly-eyed. That sucks. The D looks good, though. When I get to the D, it looks normal. It's just the P, the R, and the Bs that look just weird. All right, so now I'm going to use some foam tape. Now, I got this from Shiploads. I think it's a Tasmanian store only, but it's a bit like a reject shop or a dollar shop in other parts of the state, other parts of the country. So I'm just using this. I'm going to use them as full blocks to start with. So the idea of this is to actually stick it onto the card and it will just pop up off the card. It just gives another dimension to it, a little bit of interest, I suppose, to the card. Really good if you're doing butterflies or bees or things like that are actually flying, or you want a star or something to pop out. But I think this golf is going to look pretty cute. Now I'm going to cut one of these foam bits in half just for the foot and for the golf club, just so that it doesn't stick out over the edge. Because it's a white tape on a black card, you don't really want to be able to see it. And then, yeah, so you can see that one little bit of this is going to stand up. So I'm just going to get my scissors and just cut that off. It doesn't have to be, I've actually cut it at an angle so that you really can't see it. So now if you look down, you can see that none of that foam is standing out. I just use my little tweezers to lift the backing off this foam tape, mainly because I don't want to get my hands onto the sticky stuff. But you could just do this with your nails. And also I don't have the nails that will lift that up very well. So I might go along, get my tweezers to lift each of those bits up. All right, and now I'm just going to move that down onto my card. So I want it to be in about the same place as I had it organised on my design space. Yeah, see, I'm not really happy with that. Still not happy with that glue, but gosh, that little golfer looks cute. Focus on the positives. So the little golfer looks really cute. And I was just thinking maybe I could have put some golf balls or something along the back there, but then that would look weird. It'd be going backwards, so I might just leave it as is. But you could put something there just to hide those horrible black areas from where the glue's gone. So here it is. After an epically long production process for our birthday card, we have one for my dad. So we have used the Cricut to cut out some letters. We've put a glitter background behind those letters. We've created a pop-out golfing little stick figure man using glitter cardstock and some HTV Ront vinyl. And we've also used our scoring tool and a Cricut pen on the inside to create a beautiful fold straight down the middle and some text. So I hope you've enjoyed this process. It is a really good one to really get your teeth into and use lots of different features of our Cricut. I hope to see you next week where we tackle a new project in Honey Neats Made This. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.